So what we're going to try to do, Be'ezer Hashem Yisborach, is talk a little bit about. Oh, you can mama share this.
Yeah.
That we can talk a little about the man, but not so much the theoretical, even though we're going to have to talk first the theoretical, but the experiential. So we're all learning about the man. The question is, how do we eat man today? How do we talk eat man today? So there's a lot of suggestions. Okay, of course, the simple thing is that if you believe clearly, and it's brought down a lot of Chassidish Svarim, that if you feel that your parnasa and your sustenance comes directly from Hashem, and you have to say the money, you're eating man. But let's see if there's another mahalach, another way of thinking about this. Not so much about a belief, because if you have a belief, let's say if you have a munna, and everything comes from Hashem, so then really, when you're walking in the street, it's Kriyas Yamsuf also. Right? So the Chassidish rabbis say that Holchu Bayabasha B'soich Hayam. And even your Bayabasha, you B'soich Hayam. You can be even in Bayabasha and think that you're B'soich Hayam. So if it's a matter of Amunah, so you're always Kriyas Yamsuf, there's always Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's about having a higher level of living in the place of Amunah, living in the place of miracles, of Nisim. So there's no real Teva, like the Ramban writes. And therefore you're living in a place of miracles. But there has to be some other type of, like, experientially, how do we eat? Something to do with eating. So I'm going to throw out a few different ideas. And being that this is a very creative group, it's going to be like a composition of music. I'm going to throw off a bunch of different things. I don't compose music, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm saying, I imagine this is the way you do it. You bounce this idea, and eventually you'll see there's going to be some harmony. So you have to hold halka. Also because this is an advanced shir. So we're not going to translate every word, everything, right? If you don't understand, your neshama will understand. Okay. So, the Arizal writes that Michael, food, is Gematria, Shem Havai, and Shem Adnai. That's food. Michael is 91, which is Shem Havaya and Shem Adnai. Shem Havai is 26, Shem Adnai is 65, and the Chibur Shem Havai and Adnai is 91. Now, if you look at the word man, the first thing that comes up is that man is what? 90. Is 90. So man is missing something. There's something missing in the man. What's missing in the man? What's missing in the man that it's not a full Meichel? Okay, so you can learn the Gemara. Yeah, what did the Gemara say? The Gemara says it has Tamaya Mamoshay. But what's the one thing that it doesn't have? What? It does have texture. It says it has Mamoshay. It doesn't have Riyah. It doesn't look like anything. Right? That a person sees, if you don't see what you're eating, you're not Seveya. So this is one thing that doesn't have Riyah. So what does it mean? What does it mean that it doesn't have sight? What does it mean that you're eating a food that has no visual? What's missing if it's missing the visual? Because it tastes like something, and it will taste like everything. And it has smell, and it has texture. Okay, this is one thing. The Arizal, I'm going to read you a little shtickle from the Ari, and we'll try to understand what this means, but we'll read you very quickly a shtickle from the Ari. Ari writes like this, Kut Torah, Hina man hu soid zayin yudin da av v'sag. So you all familiar with these things mean? Everyone's shaking their head, so we're good. That the bekitzer, that man is the 7 yuds in Shem Av and Shem Sag. Shem Av and Shem Sag is Yud Ke Vav Ke can be spelled in different ways. Yud Vav Dalet is always Yud Vav Dalet, which means that it's always 20. But Hey could be spelled Hey, Yud, Hey Aleph, Hey. It depends how you fill out these letters. Or Vav can be Vav Yud, Vav Aleph, Vav. You're following? So according to the filling of these letters, you're either going to get Shem Av, which is 72, or you're going to get Shem Sag, which is 63, or Shem Ban, which is 52, or Shem Ma, which is 45. Depends how you're going to fill the Hey, Vav, and the Hey. The total amount of Yuds, if you take Yud Vav Dalet and Hey Yud Hey, for example, which is Shem Av, and Vav Yud Vav and Hey Yud Hey, so you have actually 4 Yuds in this name. And then you have in Shem Sag, you have another 3. So in total you have 7. Then the mouth itself is 2 Yuds. Because what is the mouth? The shape of a person eating. This is another whole kavanah of Dari. The shape of a person's mouth eating is actually an aleph. Because the lip over here, this indent is like the yud, and then there's the vav is the lip, and then you have the bottom indent, whatever it's called, and then the other lip. So what you have is a yud and a vav and a yud and a vav. But when a yud and a vav are together, what letter does it spell? How does it shape like? An aleph, right? Aleph is shaped with a yud, a vav in the middle, and a yud in the bottom. But if you break the aleph in half, you have yud vav and a yud vav. So when a person's actually eating, they're creating the letter aleph. This is just one kavanah. But the Arizal says like this, that if you take the 2 yuds from the upper lip and the lower lip together with the Shem Av and Shem Sag, you have 9 yuds. 9 yuds is Shem Man. It's not Shem Man, it's the Man. Man is 90, so it's 10 times 10, and 9 times 10 is that. What's the idea of the man? The man, what are you doing? You're eating. What's the process of eating? The process of eating is to break things down. So when you're breaking things down, what's a pure? What's a broken element? A broken element is like a yud. What's the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet? In the aleph base is yud, right? Everything is really a yud. A dot is a yud. Any small thing is considered a yud. When you're eating, what are you doing? You're digesting. You're breaking down using your mouth. You're breaking down something that's a whole, and you're breaking it down into pieces. The pieces is lefarer. You're making into little pieces. You're making yuds. How many yuds are you making? You're making 9 yuds. So therefore, the Arizal says like this. This is not so important, but this is what he says. When they saw that the man came from Shem Av and Shem Sag, which is Chachma and Bina, into Nukva, which is Shem Ban, Amru Manu ki lo yadu mahu, ki lo yisigu b'ma. They didn't find the ma. When they said mahu, what is it? It means that it was missing the ma. The what? Shaloya nichlu b'mashuza. So Arizal says that because in the man there was one element that was missing. And we'll have to understand what this means. There's one element that it's missing the what? It has Shem Av, Shem Sag, Shem Ban. These are mystical things, but we'll also try to unpack this in a logical way. The man has many different elements, has all different tastes, it has texture, it comes from the highest place, it's coming to the lowest place, you can actually digest it, it can actually become part of you. The one thing it's missing is what? It's missing the ma, it's missing the what. So what is the what? What is the missing of the what? Now of course this is on a Kabbalistic level, but we're trying to also understand it on an experiential level. So we're going to hold for this for 1 second. This is the second idea. If you lost me already, it's okay. You're going to resurface soon. This is all part of, you'll get it. By the end, I promise you, everyone's going to understand what I'm talking about. A little more, a little less, but more or less. The Arizal writes like this also. Oimer, the word oimer, it says oimer al-gugoylos, yeah? We've talked about this a lot. It's oimer al-gugoylos. What's the numeric value of the word Omer? Ayin Mem Resh. Ayin is 70. What? 310. 310. Shai. How do you spell Shai backwards? Yesh. So the Omer is Yesh. Omer is Yesh. We just thought, you would think that Omer is Ayin. We don't understand what this means, but you would think that Omer has to do with Ayin, with nothingness or emptiness or white, impurity. Yesh means existence, tangibility. So Omer is Yesh. On Shabbos, what happened on Shabbos? They received Shnei Omer. They got 2 Omers. So how much is Yesh and Yesh? 610. What is 610 in Gematria? Which word? Keser. 620. So Yesh or Yesh, when it says also Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Hanchel L'Chol Tzadik Shai Olamus, L'Chol Tzadik V'Tzadik Shai Olamus, that means the Shai V'Shai, 310 and 310, which is 620. 620 is Keser. So there's a Madrega of Omer, of Man, during the week, which is one level of Yesh. And then there's another Madrega of Omer, which is the Madrega of Shabbos, which is Keser. What's Keser? Okay, this is for the Arizal. Now, let's read a little bit from the Zohar. So you have it in the English. I don't know exactly where we're holding. Tachazi, Kol Yom V'Yoyma. The Zohar writes. Do you see it in English? Notiv Tala Matika Kedisha Lezer Ampin. That the tal, the flow, covers from Matika Kadisha Lezer Ampin, Mizbarchen Kol Chakat Tepuchen Kadishim, and it irrigates all the apple orchards. Is someone reading in English with me, or you don't have that piece? No. Doesn't say. What's the first thing that you have there?
It's said.
Oh, that's the first piece.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read this quickly before what it says. Tachazeh. There's another piece of Zohar. The Zohar says like this.
Oh, sorry, before. Yeah.
It says that?
No, it's in the Aramaic, but it's not on that sheet.
Oh, but you have it in Aramaic. Okay, so the piece right before that. Tachazeh Yisok ad alav izdavka b'malka kadisha begin geloy dershima kadishin kedein zachol meichel nama achari lo yatem adahav b'kanesa. That when the Klal Yisrael was in the Midbar, they were elevated to a higher madrega, and they were elevated to a higher plateau, and therefore they were able to eat even a higher food. When the Yidden, when the Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, they were elevated from their tumah, from their concealment, from their constriction, from their place of alienation and exile in Mitzrayim. They were elevated to a higher level of consciousness, and therefore they were able to eat a bread that's called matzah. This is what Klal Yisrael ate for the first 30 days right after they left Mitzrayim. Right? So there was bread that they ate in Mitzrayim, which was also maybe, according to some Rishonim, could have been also matzah, but didn't have a gather of matzah. It wasn't considered matzah. Then they ate matzah when they left Mitzrayim, which was a big thing, right? This was another madrega. They went out. This was the Lech Lech Acharai B'Midbar B'Eretz Le'Zerua. They went out with faith, with amunah, and they had the matzah. That was enough. So matzah was a higher madrega. But now they even went into even a higher level. They ate food from heaven literally. They ate angel food. It's the second level. But we're going to say it's the third level, because there's food that they ate in Mitzrayim. Then there's a food that they ate when they left Mitzrayim, which is matzah. Then there's a food that they ate post matzah, which is man. So this is Madrega Gimel. Ma'asa achari lo yater. But however, a Talmud Chacham that eats even from a higher level. And I just want to make this clear. We're not talking about concepts. I want to understand what this actually really means. What does it mean to eat matzah? What does it mean to eat mon? What does it mean to eat like Mitzrayim? And what does it mean to eat like a Talmud Chacham? Now he's saying there's a higher madrega of eating. And what's the higher level of eating? The eating that you eat like a Talmud Chacham. And the Zohar says that this is even higher than the mon. Amar Rabbi Lezer, that's what you have now. Amar Rabbi Lezer asks, if it's so, if this is true, that Talmud Chacham eats a food that's even higher than the man, so how come they're weak? How come they're so weak? The food should give them strength. It's a good question you ask. And the Zohar goes along and says, because it's umezoyna yater dekika. Mezoyna yelo yater bekoil umezoyna the chavrai in the mishtadel beraisa. The acham mezoyna the ruchav nishmasla. V'loy acham mezoyna duku f'klal. It's the next piece of Zohar that he says that there is a level of eating on the level of guf, and then there's a level of eating on the level of ruach and neshama. Okay, so we have now 4 madregas of eating. There's a level of eating, a level of food, which is when we're in exile, where we're in a constricted place, or a place of addiction. This is one level, we're stuck. This is a level of Mitzrayim. Then there's a level of eating where we're unstuck. Then there's a level of eating like an angel. Then there's a level of eating like a neshama. And neshamas are higher than angels. So we're up to Atzilus. Right? So we're getting higher and higher. You eat like an animal, then you eat from like matzah, then you eat like man, then you eat like a Talmud Chacham. But maybe there's even a higher level than this. Later on, the Zohar writes, when it says in the pasuk, "Tzadik oichel l'soiv nafshay," that a tzaddik eats to satisfy himself. So it says that you have to read not tzaddik oichel l'soiv nafshay, but tzaddik oichel al soiv nafshay. That a tzaddik eats already when they're satisfied. The Zohar says that it means that a person is satisfied before they eat. So why do you eat if you're satisfied? Why do people eat? What's the reason? What's the mechanism of eating? Why does a person eat? A person eats because there's a chesed. There's something missing. You're lacking nutrients. You're lacking energy. There's something missing in your life, and then you eat. So the eating is a completion of the chesed, of something that's lacking. But tzaddik oichel l'soiv nafshay, a tzaddik can eat l'soiv nafshay not from a place of chesed. A tzaddik can eat from a place of already being satisfied. How could you eat from a place that you're already satisfied? It's also a real question in terms of how do you relate to food? How do you relate to objects that are outside of you? Is it something that is chesed and therefore you need it? Or it's something that you're complete and yet you still want it. It's a different... I'm going to tell you a story, but this is all stream of consciousness. We're going to get back to this concept. The Kotzker, someone once came to the Kotzker Rebbe and told him, he doesn't understand, me and you, we were together, boys in yeshiva, we learned the same Torah, we had the same teachers, you became the Kotzker Rebbe and I became Chaim the Shlemazel. So he says, what's the difference between me and you? Like, what's really the difference? So he told him, you see there's an apple on the table? Eat it. So he picked it up, he made a bracha and he ate it. And the Kotzker Rebbe said, that's the difference between me and you. You make a bracha, you want to eat. And because you want to eat, you make a bracha. I eat because I want to make a bracha. What does it mean? I mean, it means multiple levels, but simply, what does it mean? You need something's missing from you. Something's a chesed, you need it. Okay, you have to thank Hashem for giving you that chesed. Or you live from a place that you're soiv nafshe, that you're actually satisfied. Doesn't mean that you're not hungry, and it doesn't mean that you don't need food, but it's a different mindset. This is all like this. Let's okay, there's also the Gemara that says the difference between machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Mishmal. That Rabbi Akiva says Alechem Abir Machal, that's Ma'achal Malachim. Rabbi Shmuel says no, it's not Ma'achal Malachim. Malachim don't eat. What does Rabbi Shmuel say? That it's Lechem Shenivlo Be'evarim. It's food that was Nivlo Be'evarim. What are they really arguing? It's the question is, Rabbi Akiva looks from the perspective that we have to elevate ourselves. So the movement is from Milamata Mamayla, you're going upwards. Rabbi Shmuel, this is also connected l'shitosam in the entire Shas. That wherever there's machlokes in Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva is Baal Tshuva. So it's important to mention this. And the nature of Baal Tshuva is someone that's constantly yearning for more, for transcendence. Because Baal Tshuva is someone that felt being in the exile much stronger, so the she'ifa is always to expire. I don't mean everyone in this room, but this is and Levi, everyone should be a Baal Tshuva. But this is she'ifa. Rabbi Shmuel was a Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Shmuel was a big miyuchas. He was a Kohen Gadol. When Rabbi Shmuel was dying, when Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva were dying, they experienced their death completely opposite from each other. When Rabbi Akiva is passing away, everyone's familiar with this Gemara, right? What? They're both killed at the same time. So when Rabbi Akiva is dying, he's smiling and he's happy, and his Talmidim say Atkan, and he says that my whole life I've been waiting for this moment. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Echad. Now finally I can expire. This is my dream. My dream is that I can expire, and he finally expires. So this is the highest thing. There's actually a vart from the Ruzhiner, unbelievable vart. I just have to chazal this. That he says Yosr Shmasa Be'echad. That is, the Shama left his body Be'echad. The Ruzhiner says what this means is like this: that they were skinning him, they were killing Rabbi Akiva, right? The Romans were killing him. So if you were an observer, you would think that how did Rabbi Akiva die? He was killed. No. Yatsa nishmasa be'echad. The reason why Rabbi Akiva died because of spiritual ecstasy. The excuse that the eyes saw was that they killed him. Rabbi Akiva was not killed. You follow? On the other hand, Rabbi Shmuel has a completely different story. Where Rabbi Shmuel is dying, he starts to cry, and then the Malachim start to cry. Zutayr v'zuschara. There's a whole story, and Hashem says, "I'm going to flood the world if you don't stop complaining." Rabbi Shmuel is complaining that he's dying. Rabbi Akiva is happy that he's dying. What's the oimek of the chiluk? Because Rabbi Shmuel's whole understanding is that you have to draw things downwards. That you have to take Mamayla and bring it down Lamata. Rabbi Akiva's whole desire is to go from Lamata to Lamayla. So when Rabbi Akiva is dying, he's in ecstasy. When Mishmal is dying, he says, no, but the point is here. So either it's Lechem Abir Machal, either we rose up to the level of the angels with Rabbi Akiva, or angel food came down as Nivlo Be'evarim. Where do we see a similar construct of man in the Torah, besides the story of the man in the Torah? We have the beginning of the Torah, the beginning of Eitz Chaim, Eitz Hadas. The story of Adam Chava. By the way, does anyone know the time it is? Because I'm not familiar, so someone tell me when we're live. Oh, that's outside. Okay.
10 more hours.
Yeah. So there's a story in the Torah. The story talks about the story, the beginning of creation, Adam and Chava. Adam and Chava is time of infancy. The Adam and Chava in the time of infancy were in the Eitz, were in the Eitz HaChai. They were in the tree of life. Incidentally, and then we'll get back to this, a cotton, a child, even according to halacha, the tsoya, the waist of a child halachically doesn't have, it's not considered tsoya. It's not considered something unclean. Until they eat tam dogam, until they eat bread. Because most of what is given to a child is nivla beivarim. And the waist is not considered real waste. Now, the Torah says, in the beginning of Bereshis, which is like our infancy, the Torah says, Adam and Chava are created, they're placed in the Garden of Eden, and they're told, it's our Hashem Elokim. So Adam Leimer Mikol Eitz Hagan Echotacham, Omeitz Adas Tover Lo Yisachol. You should eat from the entire garden, and you should not eat from the Eitz Adas Tover, which you already started explaining a few days ago. That they're not two separate trees. There's not the Eitz Adas, Eitz HaChaim. It's one reality. It's our reality. Gan Eden's here. You can only banish your consciousness out of it. Regardless, it's an Adam in a Gan. So the Mitzvah writes that the Adam left the Gan, not that the man. In English also you can say this. The man, the Adam left the Gan. His body was still in the Gan, but he was not there anymore. You understand? The Adam, the Mensch. And he's put into the Garden of Eden, and he's told, "Mikol Eitz Hagan Echotacham," which means eat from everything. Just don't eat from the tree of knowledge, which means don't make distinctions. Mikol Eitz Hagan, which means it's a positive command. You can eat from everything, just don't eat from something. The moment you take something out of the everything, it's avodah zarah. Everything is part of God. Everything is part of Hashem. Hashem Echad. So what's avodah zarah? What's idol worship? Idol worship is to say that the something is not part of the everything, or the something is the everything. So the moment you separate the part from the whole, that's avodah zarah. When we look at the Torah, or the way the Torah describes the garden, it says like this. Vayit Hashem Elokim Gamer, Yosef Hashem Adam Yitzhak, Vayitzmach Hashem Elokim in Adam me'Adama Kol Eitz Nechbal L'Mayra V'Toiv L'Maichel. Hashem Elokim plants in this garden, in our reality, everything that's Nechbal L'Mayra, pleasant to see, V'Toiv L'Maichel, good to eat. But if you go further down the story, when the snake, which we're not going to talk about, when the snake, which is us on some level, convinces Chava to eat from the garden, what does the Torah tell us? Vatera isha ki toiva eitz l'maychol echisava lo'enayim. Do you see the flip? When Hashem created it in the garden originally, what does it say? Kol eitz nechman l'mayra v'toiv l'maychol. It's good to see, it's pleasant to see, and it's good to eat. But when they take from the tree of life and they bring it into the tree of knowledge, it becomes, instead of being a process, it becomes a product. Instead of it, first it says, "Ki toiva eitz l'machal, v'chisavahu le'nayim." It's good to eat, and it's also lustful. It's pleasurable to see. So they switched around the order. It should have been first sight and then taste. First it should have said that they saw that it was pleasant to see and it's good to eat. No, first they saw that it was good to eat. Good to eat is what? What's the difference when you see something and you eat it? Very simply, when you're seeing something, it's outside of you. Okay, of course it's registering in your mind and flipping over in your brain. Well, that's not the question, but it's still outside of you. When you take it in, it becomes yours. You're owning it. You're mastering it. You're taking it into yourself. That act is an act of separation. What does the Torah say? You understand why it's an act of separation? When you see something, there's no hezekriya. You're looking at it. You're seeing it. I'm not taking it away from you. I'm not requiring it. If I eat it, I bring it into me. You don't have it anymore. So it's the toiv l'machal, v'nechem v'tayv l'naim. It's switched. First comes the utilitarian. Oh, that's the word. Utilitarian use of it, which is I need it. This is I'm hungry. This is I need. Versus the beauty of creation. Nechem l'naim. The world is a beautiful place. Toiv l'machal is already I want it. Different conversation. This is Klippa already. Klippa is already, the problem is not the world. The problem is how we bring it into ourselves. The problem is not what we see. The problem is how we interpret what we see. The problem is not the action. The problem is the narrative. Everything in the world is, and Hashem created is perfect. It's perfect. There's no such thing as imperfection in the created world besides human beings messing things up. Talk about in the created world. It's Nachman Lamara. Then the pasuk says, "Ki yidei Elokim ki yom echal menu." Hashem tells them. Hashem tells them that Mikol Eitzah Kavach Ta'achal. One second over here, and it says, "Rak Eitzah Kavach Ta'achal Alay Seichel ki yom echal menu moistumos." Meitzah das Teiver Alay Seichel menu ki yom echal menu moistumos. Because the day that you're going to eat it, you're going to die. Is it true? That's not what happened.
On some level.
Oh, what level? So the Ramban, the Pashas didn't happen. They ate it. It says because Hashem said, don't eat from the tree of knowledge because you're going to die. They didn't die. They lived a long life afterwards. 900 years is more than most people live. What does it mean that they're going to die? So the Ramban has a whole different mahalch, and he has two drachim. One is that it's the fear of death, that they became conscious of their mortality, which is das. Or it means that they were in the process of dying, that death became a reality, that eventually they're going to die. Tinik miyad shenoiled maschal yisyabish. Rabbeinu Bechai writes that a child, from the moment they're born, they're already dying, because it's a process of reversal. Okay, so your skin is like this, and eventually it turns into death. Okay, that's one thing. But the Arizal says no. It says doesn't say no. He says another idea. The day they ate from the tree of knowledge is the day that they had to go to the bathroom. That's what it means. Because up until this point, they ate lechem abiram. The food that they ate was man, and it became completely assimilated into the body. There was no waste. Everything they had to eat became who they were, and there's no ejection of anything else. Today, when a person eats, and they release, and they eject certain things, so they're not only ejecting food. When you're releasing things, you're releasing blood cells and many different other parts of yourself. Is parts of you are dying off. The dead cells come out in your feces. This is what happens. So the process is that the day that they ate, they became mortal. They left from a state of being like a malach, like an angel, like Moshe Rabbeinu on Mount Sinai, on the mountain, and they went into the tree of knowledge. And then went to the tree of knowledge, they experienced something different. So let's one more point here. Were they supposed to eat from the tree of knowledge? What was the end game? Let's say, okay, they said, Hashem says we shouldn't eat from the tree of knowledge, we should eat only from the tree of life. And therefore, what should we have been? No knowledge?
It would never have happened. It had to happen.
Wait a second. So, but let's think a second. Theoretically, now I know that it would never happen, but theoretically, what was God's plan? What was the divine plan? That man should eat only from the tree of life, which means only from unity, and never eat from knowledge. He should be an idiot for the rest of his life. No. So it's very cute when you're 3 years old to have no knowledge. It's a very sweet thing for a little kid not to have das. But it's a very unbecoming when you're 30 years old and you're chassid das. So what's the divine intention? So the Arizal writes that not that you're not supposed to eat Eitz Hadas. You're supposed to eat Eitz Hadas on Shabbos. Their problem was patience. that they were born in the tree of life. And they were told not to eat. How long not to eat? A few hours. Hold on, patience. Wait till Shabbos comes. And when Shabbos comes, they should eat from the tree of knowledge. What would have been the difference if they ate from the tree of knowledge on Shabbos? If they eat from the tree of knowledge on Shabbos, then the tree of knowledge would have been included within the tree of life. When they ate from the tree of life, and tree of life was Shabbos, one, Yichud, and they left the world of Yichud, which is Choil, which means empty or hollow. They entered the world of Choil, and they ate from the tree of knowledge, then their knowledge was duality. But if they would have eaten from the tree of knowledge on Shabbos, then the tree of knowledge eating would have been Shabbos. So this is the fifth Madrega. This is the fifth Madrega. The fifth Madrega is, and then we're going to try to bring this practical, how this tachlis. The fifth Madrega is Achilas Shabbos. That Achilas Shabbos, on the level of Eitzar Chaim, is going to be even higher than the Man and the Talmid Chacham. I told you these are just ideas. We have to. Okay, let's work like this. Moshe, we know that Man came Schus Moshe. The Man was B'schus Moshe. Moshe, when they asked him for basar, when they risavu taiva, they wanted a taiva. So Moshe answered, we've mentioned this many times, ma'ayin li basar. What is ma'ayin li basar? Ma'ayin li basar means that Moshe, it's not only from where can I produce meat, but Moshe is bechinas ayin. The Shalach Kodesh writes that Moshe, if you fill up the letters Moshe, which mem, shin, yud, nun, and hey, you have me'ayin. That the milui of Moshe is ayin. Moshe is the level of ayin. The level of nothingness, emptiness. Moshe is a level of transcendence. Moshe is a malach elikim. Ayin. So when the people come for basar, what's basar? Yesh. Existence. Flesh. When the people come for basar, Moshe says, ma'ayin li basar. I can't produce basar because I'm ayin. But the people of Isavu Saiva, the people desired, not only to desire meat, they desired to have a desire. They stopped desiring. The Meshech Chochmah writes, this is a little controversial, but the Meshech Chochmah writes, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was parish me'ishtoi, that he was no longer with his wife, and these are one of the three things that Hashem was masking to Moshe. He says this is a positive development. And many Svarim says it's not, but it's a positive development. Why? Because Moshe transcended the concept of flesh. He's ma'ayin. So ma'ayin li basar, he can't produce meat. The people, they didn't only want meat. They wanted to be human. They wanted taiva. How come they didn't have taiva? If the man produced every type of delicacy in the world, and the man felt like everything, so I don't know what you like, but I can imagine, what? I'm not the foodie, so I can't tell you, but what do people really like? What's like a geschmacka thing? Brisket. Alfalfa sprouts.
French roast.
French roast. Avada. It's not only that they wanted the French roast. They wanted to want it. They wanted to want it. It's not that they only wanted it. They didn't even want it. They had no taiva. Vayisavu taiva, they desired to have taiva again. Moshe was no taiva. Now, we know that the Gemara says, that the makar taiva, the makar of desire, comes from what you see. The nechva lamara, savu l'inaim, halev, Ha'ayin rov ha'leiv choymet. To have taiva, you have to see. Desire comes from seeing because we're physical beings. And to desire flesh, you have to see the flesh. And to desire brisket, you have to see the brisket. If you haven't seen the brisket, then there's just a mashal. If you haven't seen the brisket in years, then there's no longer the taiva. The famous story of Yitzchak the Minaku with the kid that wanted the queen, the princess. He brought that in Rishus Chachma. And he desired the princess, and the princess said in the cemetery, the Beis HaKvaros, and he thought that it meant that he should go to the Beis HaKvaros and hang out for her. And he had an elaborate imagination, and this poor kid was waiting day in, day out, day in, day out. And eventually, the image, because he only saw the princess for 5 minutes, the princess image faded, and then he became the greatest lover of God. But it's because once the image fades, it's all the image. What's the image? It's empty. So the chesaron, the only thing that the man lacked was sight. Because it lacked vision, there was no taiva. But yet, interessant, you can look in the psukim here yourself. The Sfas Emes points this out. He says that ki beparshas man haya kol bechinas riyah. Everything in the man is about riyah. Vayiru b'nei Yisrael. It says that they saw it. Ro kol Hashem nasan lechem Shabbos. That you should know that Hashem shol Shabbos. Lechein ledoyros. You should put it in tzedus ledoyros to see it. It's all about sight and there's no visual. Now he doesn't answer the question. Just brings out this point that it's riyah. It's all about sight, but there's no visual. So what's the oimik of this? What's the depth of this? You want we should see? You don't want we should see? What should we see? And how can we reclaim the food of Gan Eden? Which is that first you see it, you desire it, and then you want it. That there is riyah. So therefore we can say like this. That there's 5 levels of eating. There's 5 levels of food. That the oimer is yesh, but if you're medayik in the Lashon HaZohar, that it comes from the highest levels, and it goes down to nukva. That's what the Zohar says, but it seems to pass over zah. It skips zah. Or in the language of the Arizal, doesn't have ma. What this means simply is there's no vision. It doesn't have vision. It has all the taste, and it's tangible. It has malchus, but there's no visual. And this is the way it works. These are the 5. This is what we have to think about. These are the 5 ways we can think about food, and think about our relationship to food, and think maybe we could eat man in our lives. Not man, but achil Shabbos. The shtei oimer, the keser. The first type of food eating, the first type of foods is gas. It's thick, it's heavy. This is like the world of addiction and the world of complete attachment to food. You're stuck. It means if you wake up in the morning and you need to have a coffee, or if you're Chassidish, maybe a Danish, I don't know. Or if you're a vegetarian, some alfalfa sprouts, I don't know, whatever you do. There's something that you need to eat, and if you don't eat this, you're ois mensch, you can't, you're off kilter.
You're a slave to your food.
Then you're a slave to your food. This is achilas gas. This is Mitzrayim. What is Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim means slavery. What does slavery mean? Slavery means anything in our life that controls us, that we have no control over. Something that is larger than us and says, I need you, otherwise you can't be. So, any type of food, it could be healthy food, and it could be chazita food, whatever the food is. If there's a particular type of food, and food is just an analogy, because you can use this with anything, and like basar becomes a mashal for everything. Right? Basar is a mashal for all different types of desires in this world. If you're enslaved to this thing that you want, that you need, otherwise it can't be, then you are in Mitzrayim. Comes along Yetzias Mitzrayim. And like the Lashon HaZohar, the Zohar says that was one level of Achila. Then they were Zoicha, they were elevated to a higher level of eating, which means they were freed. What's free food? Free, I don't mean like free, cheap. What's free bread of freedom? Matzah. Matzah is bread of freedom. Why is matzah bread of freedom? Because matzah is a staple. Matzah, like the Maral writes, is the most simple ingredients possible. It's chayos. If you need to make a bread, let's say, and in order to make bread, you need yeast, and you need honey, and you need sugar, and you need this, and you need that. The more ingredients you have, the more you're enslaved to the ingredients. I don't cook. I don't know, Rachi's not here now, but I don't cook. I don't even know how to make tea. But I imagine, if you need to make something, I know how to pour water. That's a simple thing. Water is very simple. There's nothing complicated. All you need is a cup and this, and you have water. But if I have to make something more complicated, I don't know how to do these things. You have to know also proportions. You can't put too much sugar, too much salt, too much this, too much that, right? Otherwise the food tam. So what's the idea? The idea is, if you're dependent on more external things to make your comfortable dish, then you're more enslaved. You're enslaved to the sugar, to the honey, to the cake, to this, that other thing. So the least possible, the less ingredients something has, the more free it is. If you take bread and water, flour and water, also time, the Maral actually ties it also to time. If you say, it takes 2 hours to make, okay, you have to wait 2 hours. No, it's instant, very quick. With 18 minutes, the whole parsha is finished. So the less time, the less ingredients, the more free it is. This is also internal. So eating on the level of matzah, I'm not saying this is the highest madriga, but eating on the level of matzah is b'chinas ayin. It's like it's ayin food. Ayin means transcendent. It's higher. It's not. You're not megushim. You're not so involved in what you eat and how you eat it. It doesn't matter. It keeps you healthy. It sustains you. Pas v'melech toichel, and you're fine. Yeah, this is the second madrega. This is the freedom of matzah. But there's a hierarchy. So the lower level is yesh. Then there's ayin. That's the ayin of the yesh. I'll explain you why. If you need to not do something, that means that you're connected to it. If you tell yourself, I'm bigger than food. I can drink coffee without sugar. Not a big deal. Or you break yourself to, let me give you another analogy. If you fast from food, you're still attached to food. If you're running away from something, it means you're still connected to it. You don't have to run away from something you're not connected to. I don't know if this is a good analogy, but you're not afraid of an ant. If you're afraid of an ant, that means you're a little murishka, then you're talking like an ant. But most people are not afraid of an ant. You're afraid of something that's a little bit more ishtav, more something that's on your level. If a person says, I need to undo this craziness that I have with food, and I want to break free of this slavery to food. And again, I want to use this only as an analogy, because it means any type of addiction and things, external things that we think you need. It could be shoes and people and this and that, anything. It means a pillow, no pillow, whatever it is in your life that you have. If I don't have this my whole life is off. Then a person says, I want to live a higher life, so I'm going to break myself. But if you're breaking yourself, it still means that you're connected to it. So the ayin is the ayin of the yesh. You're following? Matzah was not the ultimate food because Shavuos each day alechem. Right? On Shavuos we're going to eat bread. Chametz. Matzah's kibar cham. When you're running away, you have to run from everything. If you're still feeling entangled to something, you can't make chashbonos and say, I'm going to slowly wean myself off this problem. Doesn't work. You have to do a vayirach. You have to run away. Well, b'chipazim, correct. The first Torah of Tzadik in Tzidkas Hadik. The idea is, if you really want to grow, b'chipazim. Lassalav said, b'shuva nachas livashayan, it'll be settled. It's actually a mechilta. But the idea is that if you do b'chipazim, means because you're so attached, you have to run. I have to get rid of this. I have to move to a different thing. That's the first thing. Then Hashem says to us, okay, you ate matzah, good, very good. Now I'm going to give you a higher madrega. What's the higher madrega? The higher madrega is going to be man. Man is the ayin that has traces of yesh already. But not of the yesh, not the lower yesh, but the higher yesh. We're going to get to the higher yesh and understand how the man is. What is the man? The man is something, it's like mother's milk, right? That's what the Gemara said. It's like a mother's milk, just like a mother's milk, whatever it tastes like. So Moshe says of himself that he's like a wet nurse that fed Klal Yisrael. Moshe is like a mother of children, little children, like a eunuch, someone that's still a suckling. And Moshe is bringing us to a higher level. So what's this process of Moshe doing? Moshe is giving us mother's milk. Mother's milk is going to be connected with ayin, but it's the ayin that descends into every taste. It comes from Shem Av, Shem Sag, and it goes down all the way into Nukva, which means it becomes Mamashas. It's the ayin that has also the traces of all the yesh, the multiplicity of creation. That's what the man is. This is the weaning. So this is already a deeper level of, let's just call this like a reattachment or reconnection to food. Because the first level is you're sucked into food. You're an eved. You're a slave. Then, that's why it has to go experientially and it has to go developmentally. You have to go through these madregas. You can't jump. Then the second darga is that you eat like matzah. Pasuk melech toichel, doesn't matter to me. Shtavus, ayin, fasting, all the same. Doesn't really matter what I eat. The less complicated, the easier, the better. So you're weaning yourself off of it. But Hashem created the world. And who created taste? Who created all this multiplicity and all this beauty in this world? So this is like already a way to start back to re-engaging. Now you're starting to re-engage, but the chesaron, we said that Michael is it's 90. What's missing? The Shema. What it's missing? One thing. The Ma, which is what? It's missing the visual. So there's no taiva. You don't have taiva. But you can't have taiva yet. You can't have taiva. Because if you have taiva, you're going to slip back into one. I'll give you an analogy to make this very practical. And maybe we'll talk about a diet, but it doesn't mean this. And I'm talking about more on the ruchnistic level, but you can talk about it in a diet. A person struggles, they must have danishes every morning. Then they decide, that's it, no more. I'm having fruit shakes every morning. I'm not touching any more this chazara. And then they feel like, I don't need this sweets and these type of foods. I'm okay. I'm freed from this. I'm already left by exile. I had Yetzias Mitzrayim from these problems. But they're eating bland food. They're eating fruit shake is actually good, but let's say they're eating cucumber juice. Excellent, Joe. The guy's eating cucumber juice. And after being months of cucumber juice, he says, I'm not attached, I don't need Danish, that's fine. But something, I need some other taste. So there's a danger. Because the moment you're going to try to reintroduce things, if it's going to have all the excitement of everything that you had before, 2 weeks later you're going to be back to step one. So you have to slowly get into this frame of reference. So what you do, this is what the Torah says. I'm not saying this is what you do. This is what the Eibusher gave us. The Eibusher gave us the gift of man, which is man is like spiritual food. It has tamoy mamashe, but it doesn't have mara, so there's no taiva. I can say, oh, I would love to have man today. No, it's man. It's not. You introduced a few more elements to the mix of the cucumber juice, and now you feel a little bit better because you're tasting more taste. But you're not running like a mashugana to run to selling off all your money to get the juice, because there's no taiva. And again, I'm using food as an analogy, so you use your imagination for all the other things in life. This is the second, but this is infancy. This is Taka, the Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar was beginnes, were beginnes, they were katnas. They were a level of katnas still. Until there is this Iyyar, which is in Mitzrayim, and then there's Yenuka, and then there's Moichin. And Moichin only happens when they enter the Eretz Yisrael. The Israelites actually said that there are 5 madregas, 7 madregas. You can actually look at this. I'm sorry, there's 5, and we wrote about it in, I forgot which book, but that the 5 parallel the 5 chumashim. That there's the Shasabiyah, and then there's Iyyar, and then there's Leda, right? So that Leda is in Vayikra, and then there's Yenuka, and then there's Moichin. So there are 5 stages that parallel the Psuk, the Chumashim, which basically means that Klal Yisrael is going through a process of developing. They're evolving from Mitzrayim to get to Eretz Yisrael, to Eretz Hashavas, to get to that higher level. But they need the man; they need it to get to that place. It's an important step to get there. Then there's a chilas of a Talmud Chacham. What is a chilas of Talmud Chacham? The chilas of Talmud Chacham is it has Mara. Just to throw it into the mix, there's a nice shtickle from the Ben Ish Chai Ben Yoyada. He writes, "Mekan l'sum sh'oichel v'enes sveim." Who said this memra? You remember who said this memra? Mekan l'sum sh'oichel v'enes sveim. And what was the problem with Yosef? He was blind himself. So the Ben Ish Chai writes like this. It says Mekan l'sumim, doesn't say suma. Suma would have meant himself also, but he excluded himself. Because he says he does get satisfaction. Because tzaddik oichel l'seiva nafshay, v'loy l'seiva gufay. He doesn't eat for the satisfaction of his guf. He eats for the satisfaction of his soul. It's not what you. So there's a darga of a tzaddik that eats l'seiva nafshay. First of all, we should all be tzaddikim to figure out what this exactly means. But bepashtus, also, achila is very much connected with the tzaddik. Tzaddik kol ra is dafka with things with achila. This to eat like a mensch is a very, very big thing. This is like the first steps of being anything. You can't eat like a this and try to reach anything. If you learn how to eat and speak, your levushim have to be refined. If you learn how to speak, how to eat, these are basic stuff. Then you can go higher. But the idea of tzaddik oichel l'seiva nafshay means, with the way the Zohar is saying, and this is the Ben Ish Chai, but they're all saying the same thing, that there's a certain level of seveh. I'm already satisfied. The food that I eat has mara. It looks, and it tastes, and it smells, but I don't care so much. It's not that it's missing something, it's just I don't care so much. It's not like the bread of matzah, where you're intentionally taking away everything, you're stripping everything away because you're afraid that you just left Mitzrayim. So if you're so addicted to sugar, if you're going to put a little bit of sugar in your food, you're going to go right back to sugar. Right? That's the first level. That means that's the second level where a person's eating matzah. This level, you don't have to eat matzah. You can go back, but it doesn't matter to you. You don't care. Nafshistik on a spiritual level, on a soul level, you're no longer attached. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you eat. If it's dark, it's light. Okay, it does have taste, and it does smell nice, and it looks nice. These are all good things, but you're already satisfied. You're not looking for something outside of you to fill you up. Of course, you need the nutrients, but you're not looking for something external to you to make you feel complete. You feel complete in yourself. You're a tzaddik. You're a whole person. You're a whole person. You don't need anything outside of you to complete you. That's a tzaddik oichel l'sevei nafsho. You're already a sevei nafsho. You already feel complete. You already feel whole. Okay, these are the things you eat. You eat it. But then there's a high madrega, which is the highest level, which Omer is gematria twice Omer is gematria keser, which is the highest madrega of keser, is tainug, is pleasure. Like Adam Achava Koyd Machet Kisavu Lenayim V'Toiv L'Maichol, that it could be beautiful. First is the sight, then is the utilitarian thing that I want it, I want to eat it. First is Eitz Hachayim, and then is Eitz Hadas. First is Shabbos, and then is awareness. First is unity, then is duality. When you eat, when you come from that place, so you experience everything in this world as an expression of Hashem. You're full of tainug, you're full of pleasure, but there's no separation. It's not my physical body is having delicious pleasure for this particular fruit. You understanding this a little bit? Huh? I don't know what the opposite is, but this is, I don't know if you have tainug. So you have tainug. I'll tell you another angle from this, then we'll try to maybe fit it in. The Leshem writes like this, that before the chet, it's Eitzav Epir Tam Echad. Before the chet, the fruit and the tree tasted the same. After the chet, everything became divided. Yeah, that's what it says in Chazal also, that the Pir of Eitzav tastes differently.
Bark.
The bark, yeah. The bark and the fruit taste the same because it's one. So he says that if you take this on a deeper level, today, how do we enjoy food? Let's say there's 5 sensory things in your tongue, glands, and they're each connected to a different taste. You have sweet, sour, right? Each one is a different area in your tongue. So if you cover that part of the tongue and eat something sour, you're not going to feel it. Let's say Lu Yitzur already that you did taste something, and it did touch the part of the tongue that's sweet, and you feel the sweet. Where do you feel the sweetness? In your mouth. Do you feel it in your toes? Do you feel sweetness in your toes? When you're eating. Let's say you're ready, okay, or Madrega Aleph, or Madrega Hey. Because they're both going to be this, superficially they seem to be doing the same thing. You're eating something and you're enjoying it tremendously. What part of you is enjoying it? Your mouth, your tongue, maybe your smell. But is your toes enjoying the taste? No. Because just like there's an object and subject in everything, just like the subject entered into the world of duality, into the tree of life, left the tree of life and went to the tree of knowledge, left the Eitz HaChaim and came into Eitz HaDas. So therefore, Tama, the period of Eitz is not Ke'echad. There's separation now. The bark tastes like one thing, the fruit tastes like another thing, and the actual tree doesn't taste like anything. Separation now. The same thing also in the person, the subject that's experiencing the pleasure. Now there's a separation of pleasure. You're having pleasure? One of you is having pleasure. It could be this part of your body, this part of your body, that part of your body. It's not your whole body. Why? Because that's from the Eitz Hadas Tevirah. Because it's a place of separation, therefore our pleasures are compartmentalized. The ultimate expression of pleasure is when it's pleasure that has everything and for the entire body. Like Adam Chaviv Kodem Achet. When you eat from everything, not from something, you eat from everything, and the pleasure is experienced in every single parcel of your body. That's yichud. How could you eat from everything and feel everything in your body? The nikud is like this, and this is experientially or something that we can think about. If your tainug is eliki, If your pleasure is divine, that's what you seek. You seek to have divine pleasure. The only pleasure in the world that is the ultimate pleasure in this world, the ultimate and only the deepest pleasure in the world is Hashem. And it's a very simple calculation. Because the definition of oinig is the absence of self. Pleasure is the absence of self. If you're experiencing pleasure, then you're not having the ultimate pleasure. If you're listening to music, we mentioned this a few days ago, if you're listening to music and observing yourself listening to music, you're not really having the pleasure of listening to music. If you're learning and you're watching yourself learning, you're not really learning. You're not really experiencing the pleasure of learning. The depth of pleasure is experienced in the absence of self. Because the depth of pleasure is atik, is the highest level of keser. It becomes the deepest level of pleasure where you become completely absorbed in the everything. If you're absorbed in a fruit, then it's only your mouth enjoying this particular fruit. But if you're enjoying Kirvas Hashem, Lisaning al Hashem, then your whole modality is in pleasure. The pleasure is the absence of self, completely awake to the world and to all of Hashem's pleasures in this world. But it's from a state of consciousness. Your consciousness is in a state of pleasure. Your being is in a state of pleasure. And you're experiencing pleasure in everything at all times with everything. Your entire body. Capish? You understand what we're talking about? This is the madrega of Shabbos. Now, of course, you can say, okay, really Shabbos? No, Shabbos is me'ein olam haba. Shabbos is a me'ein of what we can actually achieve. That Shabbos, the whole structure of Shabbos is, we don't eat right away Shabbos. We always davening first. Why? What's the oimek? What's the idea of davening? Because first you tune in your pleasure antennas to God. Today, we're going to finish Mamash, just the last nekuda. You turn on your antennas, Lisanig al Hashem. You open yourself up to the everything, to the Creator, to the highest tainum. You have complete experience, some type of ecstatic experience of pleasure with Hashem. Then, every person that you see is beautiful. Every single food that you taste is delicious. Everywhere, from the top of the head to the bottom of your toes. Good Shabbos.